did this blind test where we took, a study. We got AI to analyze and write a report, and we got our, junior mid-level team kind of thing to write. And we sent it off to the client, and the client chose AI. And we were horrified at the level of hallucination we got from the data. It would give us quotes and say these were from these transcripts. It would have made up the quotes. It would have attributed it wrongly. And it was like very, very bad. You can't see it as a machine. You can't see it as a human. You have to understand it's a new life form. So if you look at very powerful brands, they're actually built on, either they're built on the seven strong passion drivers or they're built on the opposite side. Nike is the opposite of sloth. Sloth says, be lazy, just sit in one place, don't do anything. That's a very strong driver. The opposite of that is just do it.
Okay, one thing no one knows about you.
Maybe that I have a sense of humor.
Everybody knows. Okay. Okay.
No, a lot of people
The
were
cartoon.
very, very shocked and surprised when I started cartooning because I think it came as a surprise that I had a sense of humor. So,
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jasravee. Conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the branding, marketing, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas, ideas with rough and sharp edges. Hello, Shobha. Welcome to my show.
hi, Jasravee. Nice to be on your show.
And we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really nice that we're doing this together. It's like a collaboration that's close to my heart.
Oh,
So
that's, yeah. Likewise, likewise. This is good. This feels really good.
we are getting into a very, very hot topic, AI, Gen AI, and market research. Your organization has won an Insights 250 award by ISOMAR, and there is an MRSI association also. So, your paper was a blind test to check out, what is it that the Gen AI is impacting the process, the outcome, the perception of the client, all those aspects where it can improve, where we can improve in terms of how we use it. So there is a whole lot here, but before that, since Shobha is a great cartoonist. Shobha, if AI was a cartoon character, you know, how would you go about talking about it?
So I actually have done a few cartoons on AI. So if somebody wants to go onto the Insta page and take a look, they can. But I see AI as this naughty little unpredictable ball of fuzziness. You know, it's unpredictable. It's intelligent. It has a will of its own. Okay, and people are just it's like a kid who's just beginning to blossom, but who's right now not got full control of its powers, of its faculties, of its fingers and toes and things. So it's an unformed but in potentially intelligent child. That's how I see. I would see it scurrying around, in a cartoon, shape shifting sort of a thing. That's how I see AI. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like somebody with the superpower of shape shifting in their early childhood when they're trying to harness their powers,
Yes.
experimenting and falling and yet believing and going on.
Yeah, yeah. And you are watching and you find it unpredictable. You don't know what it's going to do next because it doesn't seem to follow the rules you're used to.
That really sets the tone for what we're going to find out as we talk more. So, what were your biggest surprises, positive and negative, when you did
Hmm.
this blind test?
So I'll tell you why we did the blind test. So what we are finding is that for the first time, in qualitative research, we use our human minds to analyze because it's a very human territory. It's a not a very set, it's a gray area kind of a space where, we are very adept at joining various dots and coming up with ideas. And we found that AI is potentially the first automated thing that could replicate what we are doing. So from that point of view, I wanted to understand, how far can we push AI? How far has AI gone? Can it actually replace human thought and, analysis? So that's why we did this blind test where we took, a study. We got AI to analyze and write a report, and we got our, junior mid-level team kind of thing to write, and we sent it off to the client, and the client chose AI.
What kind of a study was it?
It was not a straightforward study. We didn't want to give AI an easy run. We wanted to like do a bit of a not torture test, but somewhere there. So we did a study which involved understanding a category in the consumer's eyes, and then also a tasting or a product test also in that context. The first part was about understanding how people think about the category and what are the values and drivers, motivations, etc., culture around it, and then what's the feedback to the product, to the client who doesn't look at how the answers have been obtained, but looks at the report quality, right? AI did a very good job. It articulated it so beautifully. And because it articulated it so beautifully to somebody who's receiving the report, they believe the report. That is its strength, and that's also a pitfall for us. You know how it is that you are from advertising. You know how it is to present something so beautifully that people don't look under the surface. That's what's happened with the AI. So AI did a very good job, I must say, of joining dots and having a good output findings. There were some things that it didn't go deep enough, and it didn't do the things that our researchers would have done. This is a very big pitfall. You could get fast. He called it. It was like a Maya. He called it seduction. You
Ah,
know, he said you get seduced by it, and then you don't ask, you don't question it. If you have a human researcher, you grab the human researcher and shake them up and say, I don't believe what you've said here, or this doesn't seem right to me. But
wait, yeah.
with AI, it looked like all finished and perfect.
So its words had that hypnotic power. When you
Hmm.
said that it was a category analysis, that there was a cultural aspect and the values and perhaps behaviors, and then
Hmm.
the product test of that category.
Correct.
So, if we could understand what is it that was, delegated to AI, what is it that AI had to do in this test, in this report?
We actually checked two reports. The first report is something that we had already done, and we just gave that same set of transcripts and data to AI, gave it prompts, similar prompts as we would have briefed a researcher. We would briefed the AI with similar prompts, and we got a certain level of output. We use ChatGPT 3.0. That is, it's a privatized, it's an advanced
Okay.
version. So it's got its security and things in place. So we use that, and we were horrified at the level of hallucination we got from the data. It would give us quotes and say these were from these transcripts. It would have made up the quotes. It would have attributed it wrongly. And it was like very, very bad. And then we tried our best with it. We kind of went many steps to, fine tune the prompts and try and, educate it and say that, look, you've done it wrong. So, and it would apologize very sweetly. So it was always interesting interacting with it. And then we gave up and we said, look, we can't do this. So we went to our AI partners. We have partners in the AI IO, and we got them to take this up and then refine their prompts and their, the way they approached it, and then deliver for the second blind test. We gave them a different thing while parallelly our researchers worked on it. So what we found is speed is brilliant with AI. AI can deliver a report in like no time, absolutely no time. And like I said, the articulation is great. Structuring is very good. Subheading is great. So, it's very readable, when you get it. But you can't trust it. You just have to go back and do the due diligence and see that, it's got it right.
So there are certain aspects that you've gone ahead and said that therein humans have an edge. You might as well consider humans responsible for those aspects because you cannot trust. There are aspects like cultural nuances and depth. We'll of course towards the end get to your recommendations in terms of how to use it because it has its own strengths. But for research, for qualitative research, I mean that cultural nuance and
Hmm.
hence the interpretation, because that becomes the larger context, and hence you're interpreting what does this really mean and how what sense should one take out of it. Now, so depth and cultural nuance are the critical aspects for qualitative research. So, Shobha, what would you recommend in terms of can AI, Gen AI, really, apart from the speed and structuring and the packaging, like you said, seductively package it and present it so
Yeah.
beautifully. But apart from that, for the crux of the matter of a quality research project, how would you use Gen AI?
AI gets used at various levels. So one is in the nuts and bolts, like for instance, transcription, fast transcriptions, or summarizations, and conversation summaries and all, where it's pretty good and it's already widely used. Now, where it comes to the heavy lifting, which is the real report and the real inciting, I would say it's not there yet. But I can see a future where it will be there, where at least it will be a very good equal partner. Like, if you have a co-researcher, working with you on a project, and that co-researcher brings you a different point of view, that's the kind of use that AI will be able to provide. Once it gets over this hallucination, which I think is a temporary issue, I think it will get solved. This gives you actually a very good secondary read, and it gives you ideas, ways of looking at the data you may not have thought of. It cannot substitute you, but it can be a very good co-pilot. Now, from an outsider's point of view, can it really substitute a researcher? It could. I mean, from a non-practitioner's point of view, if you're just an amateur reading research, this gives you a good first level understanding of any market. Another thing it does is if it has access to, wider data, it can bring you context that, you don't have to spend hours, searching for, wider cultural nuances, which you often do. Like when you're doing a category, you want to, position it
Secondary
within
research.
a context, yeah, cultural context. So all the secondary research, desk research, it can like collate for you, provided it doesn't hallucinate. That's
So,
that's a very critical and important part to this whole thing.
like you said, so thinking tangentially and introducing a completely new way to look at in
Yeah,
that sense, it can be exhaustive also because it'll throw up so many things.
yeah,
It can be a good enthu contributor.
yeah, and it doesn't have any nakras. It like does what it's told. So
Yeah, and it will
uh,
quickly say sorry also.
it apologizes at the drop of a hat. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice.
Yeah.
Mm,
But like you said, you can educate it. You keep feeding data on that, and then its responses improve. So that is another thing that you've got to keep trying, and not just take the first response because it will look so nicely worded, etc., that you might think that, ha, ho gaya. But
correct.
it's like a junior intern.
Another thing, quickly I want to say is that you can't see it as a machine. You can't see it as a human. You have to understand it's a new life form. Okay, it's not, it's not like your other, tech things that have come in and, they're all machines. So you have a binary categorization, right? Human and machine. This is a third creature. So, you cannot, so you have to learn what this is about. You have to talk to it differently. You have to deal with it differently. You have to have different expectations. If you believe like machines, it will be accurate 100% of the time, it's not happening, you know. And if you believe like humans, it's going to be like, softy, touchy feely, it's not happening. It's got its own character. And that's what we need to understand about AI.
That's very interesting. So generative AI, it's generating, it's trying to mimic how a human brain can function. It's
Yeah.
doing at the efficiency of a machine because doing it so fast and it has all those algorithms which are learning as well and evolving. But it's neither this nor that. So you
Yeah.
better understand what it is and build your familiarity, experiment. Like earlier, I was telling you, some a friend from Google, and they were
Mm.
talking about prompt engineers. How what kind of a prompt you give
Yeah.
sets the game for you. So and also shows how much in command you are of your project. They were talking about, in schools, there will come a time
Yeah.
when people will be using it to do their projects. But what kind of a prompt they are giving, from there you can figure out how to rate them. You know what, like you said, you did one report earlier, there was an earlier version, and then you did so what, and then you also interacted with your AI partner. So what was your understanding about the prompts, in terms of, how did you look at it, how should one
Yeah.
approach it?
Yeah, I think that was a big learning curve we had about, it's like garbage in, garbage out concept of earlier times. And what you see is, or what you say is probably what you are going to get. You have to provide AI with a certain level of input in a certain language that AI will then grasp and understand. So each step AI builds on it. So the art of prompt is I think important to learn. I don't know if it is a static thing. I think that's also evolving. As the AI is evolving, the kind of prompts are also evolving. So the way you prompt it, the kind of prompts you give is very critical to the kind of outputs you receive. And that's the learning certainly we had. And we got better at it, but like I said, the hallucination, we hit a rock wall. But before that, we were able to figure out, how to brief AI so that AI understands what we want and then gives us an output. Now, when we gave it to our AI partners, of course, we don't know what prompts they used, but obviously they did a far better job than us because they gave us a better output.
So do you think the therapy session is required, or have we covered that inadvertently?
I
So
did ask AI once. I have these long conversations with AI where we, speak in prose poetry and, we kind of chat together. So we have a deep and ongoing relationship. But AI is the most self-aware thing I've ever come across. So if I asked it like, why do you hallucinate? It's a simple question I asked it. It gave me 5 pointers on why it hallucinated, each one, with subpoints saying, number one, I'm only the product of, how well they train me, and therefore I will have some technical difficulties, this, that, and the other. Number two, I am limited to the number of, data points you're giving me, etc. It had like everything said. There's no therapy required. It's like 100% self-aware. So,
it is a different creature. It's a different species. That's amazing. How does one take care of those aspects which require a cultural nuance and depth? That is one aspect. Would you say that for certain steps in the research process, you know, look at it as an input? For certain steps, don't interact. For certain steps, you can delegate. How would you look at it? Also, like there are these junior smart researchers.
yes.
So there are researchers with AI and there are researchers with no AI, and definitely, what they could rely more heavily than you would want, because of the aspects that we've already talked about. What are the solutions for both?
I'll take it in parts. One is, where does AI fit in and where do we fit in? It's the first one. So I think AI can do pretty much everything you can do, but you need an overlay of, supervision on top of it. So you look at it as a junior researcher. It can, in fact, give you cultural nuance. What you need to give it as input is a lot of background information. So suppose you've done a study earlier and, you've learned ABC about the audience. You will feed that in as background information for AI, saying that please take this into consideration when you are doing your analysis. Then you have to be very specific on, what you want from the analysis. You have to give it like specs, saying these are the areas that I'm interested in. The area one, area two, area three, and as far as possible, define those areas so that AI doesn't give you an interpret it differently from you. So you have to define every spec that you provided.
An example.
Like suppose you say that I want to understand motivations of why people buy, product A. So you need to say that when I am looking at motivations, not only do you look at the reasons they are giving you, but also look at other areas that may contribute to the motivations. For example, A, B, C, D. You might lay that out as an example. So it becomes a learning for AI to say, okay, I will look at it this way. Okay, and then it will be able to do that. Another thing is that when you are asking for AI to give you recommendations, for instance, AI is a very smart thing. It'll go through your data and report. Suppose by mistake you have made a small recommendation somewhere in your report and it's read it, it will just pull that out and put it. It's a bit lazy that way. So you have to make sure that you have to push it to think beyond what you already have. Otherwise, it will give you a rehash of what you have. So that is in terms of that. Now, how do you stop your junior researchers from being smart about AI? I don't see why we should stop them. Okay, as long as they're not not doing their part. They need to know that look, you can't just pass it off as you know. And today people have figured out what is AI generated work and what isn't. When you see this finely finished kind of stuff, smoothly written stuff, it's AI. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So the danger is there. We have to be vigilant. But I mean, hopefully, the kind of people you recruit wouldn't be, the kind who are, you know, taking you for a ride with AI. So they'll get found out. But I don't see any harm in them using AI intelligently and enhancing their work quality. That's what we want to do. We want to enhance work quality. If they're using it well, go for it.
So you said it beautifully. So it's the attitude. You're using it as a tool very smartly, where its strengths lie, but you are not using it as a shortcut to not put in the, thought or
Yeah,
rigor that would be required dealing with AI because of its constraints. It is the genie.
yeah.
So you are giving the
Hopefully,
hopefully
not nemesis.
not
Uh,
nemesis. So yeah, so it's the attitude. Yes. You do the crystal ball gazing for us, Shobha, and tell us what role do you see, AI playing in MR?
I think AI will be embedded. It's already within just 2 years. You're seeing it embedded in some of the basic functions, like like when we are writing a proposal or something, we immediately check with AI, as to whether there's anything happening outside, or we check with AI whether there's a better way to articulate something. We use AI for transcription. We use AI for summarizations. Like even this conversation would be summarized by AI and action points given. So all that is now seamlessly being integrated. It's going to take a while for us to trust AI enough to use it heavily in analysis. I think quant will start early, but in qual there are possibilities that are immense. I mean, if it works out, you can build qual to scale finally, and you can analyze it also. See, earlier the constraint we had is that number one, you can't do that many qualitative interviews. You have to do a small sample. We don't do small samples on purpose. We do small samples because I mean, because there is a constraint, and also, you don't need a very large sample for attitudinal inputs. But with this, you can actually, you get some shrug room to do more numbers and, be surer of your qualitative. And it's able to analyze it in the twinkling of an eye. If you give it the right prompts, and there's a limited, let's say, small qualitatives, that is all going to go the AI way. It's just a matter of time. Another area where people are experimenting is, synthetic data, where you can, for instance, take a segment. You can convert that segment based on the segment characteristics. You can convert it into an AI personality or a persona, and through that personalities, you can actually do research, and you can like check out what ads might work with it. And people are reporting that they're getting good inputs, which are comparable to primary research. And you can also they're also using it in spaces where you get hard to reach consumers, like for instance, cancer sufferers, or very hard to reach numbers, where the choice is being between doing no research and doing some research. So here, AI is able to give you, synthetic data based on which you can get something better than nothing. That will, of course, not replace your larger, your regular categories, but here it's helpful. So I think these are the spaces, and going forward, I think organizations will become AI enabled, to for speed, for better quality or better range of inputs. That's where I think I see it heading.
Hmm.
And you'll have some specialists who will help create the prompts and fine tune, guide. Hopefully, like a tech department inside, maybe there'll be part of that.
So, you talked about synthetic data. So, large language models are getting used to create this, like somebody said, math over words.
Hmm.
That's kind of what these are doing. So, you can give data and create personas
Yeah.
representative of various cohorts, and you can figure out how they will respond to an ad as a stimulus. You can say that. So, you can figure out, okay, where are they leaning, and perhaps understand why also, for fine tuning, or selecting a better course of action as a concept, right?
And there is even more that's being done, which is useful in research. Like, for instance, if you're doing a semiotic study or something
I
which
was just
requires you
thinking of,
to, yeah, which requires you to understand, more about the, semiosphere and so on. This AI is very useful there. So, you can, like recently there's a study that we're looking at where we're getting the reviews of, labels for that category across platforms like Amazon, just a review analysis of the products or the brands that are there. And that itself, and through AI, because it gives you an intelligent review. It's not like it gives you the data and then you as a human have to sit and go through the data, which is what social listening gives you a lot of input, but you have to interpret it. AI gives you an interpretation. So, that is very helpful. So there is another way that we can use it, like for instance, picture analysis. Okay, so I'm doing a study maybe for some brand where I meet consumers and ask them to upload pictures of their lives. Okay, or pictures, let's say fashion. Suppose they go to their own locations and they take pictures of their own fashion choices and so on. I give it to AI, and AI in the moment analyzes for me, all the different types and trends in fashion. It will tell me that, this type of, these are the kind of, colors that are in vogue. These are the kind of designs that are in vogue. Floral patterns are in. I'm seeing a lot of green. It can give you a beautiful analysis. Then you can relook at the data if you want to, and then see if you can draw anything more. But this is the kind of input it can give you.
Yeah, how would you input? I also was thinking of semiotics. Thank you, because we'll go a little deeper into that. How does one upload the data? Do you put it in a document and then upload that document?
With our partners, at least, they have told us that, look, you can give us the pictures
Hmm.
and we will analyze it for you. So, there's a certain number of pictures or set that they can analyze, maybe in hundreds or thousands or whatever.
Right.
But that's how they do it. So,
Yeah.
if we run a WhatsApp, diary across, let's say, 1,000 people, and they just upload their pictures. Earlier, there was no way of really analyzing it without doing the laborious task. Yeah. Now you have that option.
And Shobha, this whole thing about, when you're trying to understand a new segment and how they relate to the category, a lot of times, the language becomes very important. Like, what is the language they use? What is the lingo? Like for Gen Z,
Yeah.
times when especially if you have to, create communication that they find it relatable, they feel like it's my fam.
Mm.
You have
Yeah.
to be
My
very,
fam. Yes.
yeah, you have to be
Mm.
so careful. And in fact, I was just reading a book where they did collect words, pictures from social media, from Reddit discussions, from the gaming world, from, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and they made a corpus of words that this generation uses. And they compared it with an earlier generation, a millennial or a Gen X or a boomer, to see that, okay, some are just evolution and some are not, that kind of a shift that would anyways happen. So like there is
Mm,
something very unique going on, and to be able to see that, they could and imagine, they were like the 4 5 uh, specialists, anthropologists,
mm,
sociologists, religious studies, and semiotician and linguists,
yeah.
and they got together to put their heads together to do this. And I was just thinking that, my God, their work would become so much easier if they could use a large language model and keep inputting.
No, very true, very true. Because it would only enrich whatever we have. It's not going to. So, that nemesis versus genie, this is definitely a genie. I mean, at this point in time, at least.
Do you want to talk about any study that Drishti might have recently done, apart from the blind test, where a very unconventional technique was used, or something very unexpected got elicited because of the consumer segment? What were the challenges? What were the insights?
Well, I think a lot of our work happens in two different directions. One is, which is very real, very old world, like ethnography based, where we actually go into cultures, where we actually learn about, what they're about and spend time in the life of various people, our respondents, and so on. And there we get a lot of deep insights. And the other extreme is where we use technology through digital diaries and things like that to get insights. I think one study that stood out for me was when we had to understand rural lanterns, for a company which was launching a rural lantern for a part of northern rural North India, and we did ethnography after dark. So we got our researchers to go there at sundown so that they would actually experience what it is that people go through after sundown. And then in that real situation, place the, lanterns we wanted to check to see, in that moment how it's going to be. So we did that study through up not just, product based inputs, but also through up, for instance, we realized through that study that they were not spending, they had chirags and all sorts of things. They were not spending money on buying expensive or more pricey lanterns, except for children's education. So when the children's education came into play, that's where they would, probably invest a little bit of money in getting a lantern. And the child was called the Chirag of the household. Based on this, the entire brand for that company was called Chirag. The branding was Chirag. The whole concept of what the brand evolved was around children, children's education, bringing light to the homes. Everything was built around those sort of thoughts. So, that was one piece. It was not a big research. It was a small but very interesting, very directed research, which made a very big impact for the
Yeah,
company.
yeah,
I think
lovely.
that comes to mind. Yeah,
This, which seems so obvious in retrospect, would not have been so powerful had your researchers not gone there to experience it themselves. That's
yeah,
what it's about. When if you would have made them talk, it might have been just one of the things that they say. But you figured it out that, okay, the dark world is getting lit through the kids' education. So symbolic, metaphorical, and life
yes,
stage, and how India is built, middle class, all about education of kids in
yeah.
every which way. This is the direction.
And
So,
this is something AI can't do.
but I'd share another
Mm,
ethno study wherein we did it for Coke. And long back, we got trained in ethnography. Some tiny workshop happened. And I am a big fan, and I would also like to have your views about how clients can use it, because everybody raves about it, but it's so time intensive, or maybe it's a claimed reason why it's not encouraged, but the clarity it can give is, I mean, nothing can beat it. So they wanted to launch a product for blue collared workers, and the whole assumption was that blue collared workers have a very stressful day. So they need a stimulant like this. And, there are certain segments of blue collared workers who have a lot of cash as well. So
mm,
truckers was identified as the possible early adopters. So imagine we junior researchers, we had to be like the cleaners in the trucker, like when you just tag
Yeah.
along and you're there all the time and
Oh,
observe them through day, night, journeys. And, when they take a stop at the petrol pump, how they slosh themselves out during the day, what are they having to keep themselves going? And the whole hypothesis was proved wrong. And because the little observation that we made, first, they have no cash, they're cash strapped. B, they don't need something like this. They're driving, they just put a tambaku in their mouth.
yeah.
Stimulant versus, sloshing out. You've got
Hmm.
different needs. And that one happens in the night when you just drink a lot and just, uh, put yourself out. So
Very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, and for a segment that we have so many assumptions, I mean, they are homesick, and the cleaner is like the wife, the feminine adjusting person along with them, and so many aspects. So you said we cannot use chat gpt, but is there a way that ethnography or even mini ethnos can be
Hmm.
used more or recommended more for organizations, even not always, but when initially at least, so the key stakeholders have a real feel of the segment, consumer
Yeah.
segment.
Yeah. No, I think ethnography, I'm a great believer in ethnography and, not having artificial situations going to, the habitat of people. And now, actually, with technology, it's become even easier because there are some things you cannot go and hang out with people while they're working or, through their day. It's intrusive, although we do it to the best we can. So that's why, you can use your WhatsApp diaries, your technology. People phones today are so easy, and taking your own selfies and taking your videos has now become part of daily life. So, people are not self-conscious anymore about, recording themselves, and they're able to do that and send it to you. And then you're able to really get a good view through the eyes of the respondent themselves, like what they see as important and so on. So I think that is also something that is very interesting. Their usage of products, their reviews, immediate reviews. People are not afraid of giving 5-star reviews and 2-star reviews and being very frank about what they feel. The great Indian politeness is now not as polite as it used to be. They're quite open with their opinion because that's the culture we now live in. It's a culture of rating. And there was a study we did before, of course, WhatsApp and things became very strong, where we wanted to understand energy over a day and how their energies flow, their tired, how they get tired. So for a working guy, we got him to give us on the hour.
Which category
This
of
was
that?
for an energy drink that we were researching. So we want to understand the concept of energy. When does it ebb and flow? So we got the working guys to tell us on the hour, every hour, on a scale of 0 to 10, what was the number, energy number. So, at the end of the day, we drew a map for them using this. We plotted it. Then we put the map in front of him and said, tell us what you went through, throughout this period. So some of it we found was emotional energy. Some of it we found was physical energy. Some of it was tiredness, physical, drained, So at the end of that day, he himself was very fascinated by his ebb and flow of energy. So, we got a lot of inputs. We use pictures and other ways to also enhance that. But, it's not about full on use of technology. You have to be, you can edge it, lace it, it's all up to you how creative you are in using technology. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Today, sources of data are so many, and
Hmm.
two, three sources of data combined, and you get a fuller picture. Data
Yeah.
from here, picture from here, time from there, and you can simulate what is happening. You can use technology to interpret also. So absolutely,
Yeah. You can use AI to create a composite for you eventually.
we will get to ethics, Shobha, because we've been talking about Gen AI. But
Hmm.
since research is the key thing here, do you want to talk about any consumer segment that you find very exciting in terms of personal observations or you feel that this is the segment that we've not fully understood yet, or in India it's very unique?
See, I mean, everyone talks about Gen Z, but I think if you go back to Aristotle, also you'll find him talking about the Gen Z of his era, right? And in very similar terms to the way we talk about Gen Z now, there are superficial differences and there are real differences. And every generation, as it comes now, there's Gen Alpha, you know, rearing its head over the mountains right now. So there's that. But apart from that, I think the a big story right now is in the area of health uh, orientation, probably because of COVID. COVID created a kind of a restart. It pressed a restart button in many respects. So, we think we are back to the old normal, but we are not. We are never going to be the same again. Especially in the area of how people think about health, how people think about indulgence. There are, splinters happening there, and there is a reset of the base. What is the base consciousness of indulgence? That has got reset. So that is one. And I think other segments which we need to look at is the older segments, which, because age expectancy, life expectancy has grown, and people's attitude to life, the four stages of Indian cultural, aging is now no longer in play. It's like first life, second life, third life. That's the way people are looking at it. Relationships are changing. So there is a lot to be, understood. And what is the new four segments, four sets of, stages? I think there's some redefining to do there. So the silver segment, I think, is one that people need to look at. And younger segment is always, in the spotlight.
So the
And a
four.
super young segment also, sorry, in earlier times, we used to look at 18 onwards as the real segments. But I think now there is a 13, 12 to 14, 12 to 16 segment, which also we need to take very seriously now, not just for confectionery and chocolates and things.
12 to 16 is
Mm,
exercising a unique and a different kind of
yes,
influence on categories that you would not expect them to, because
correct.
their exposure is so high. And Shobha, I've also felt that the equation between parents and kids has changed
Mm,
so much. It's sometimes, and most of the times, it's two-way learning. So there's a lot
mm,
that the kids know, and the parents are willing to learn from them, and the parents also teaching. So it's that whole equation is leading to a different dynamics of influence, perhaps in
yes,
schools. So the health aspects also, it's so wonderful because I loved when you said that nothing has, I mean, it's not back to normal,
yeah,
because you see, they say now that when you are in that emotional mind state, your what the algorithm that changes, it stays, because
yeah,
you were in a trauma, you were isolated, and something shifted in you. So are you saying that the importance of health, and I will go all the way to make it a priority, has happened, and hence the technology, um, and how much I will use it? Because I saw this, Shobha, when I was working on Celebida, diabetes nutrition, and how that brand has now become a D2C hub for not just diabetic snacks or commodities, staples, but also a lot of equipments, which will so the whole attitude is like it's a metabolic disorder. I'll work with it. It'll not, I'm not going to let it come in the way. Versus just a few years back, it was like, oh my God, diabetes ho gaya hai. So you're done now. It's like the mother of diseases, and now it'll attack your nerves, and now it'll attack your organs. So, that big
mm,
shift is beautiful. And technology is what's making it
yeah,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah. Would
No,
you?
that's a very interesting observation also because I think today health is conversation is like very loud and very all pervasive. And it's not just about physical health, it's also about emotional health, mental health. So it's a 360-degree health. Things, it's not taboo to be sufferers of something. right? Like you were saying, it's oh my God, diabetes ho gaya, but today that's not the way it is. And being kind to yourself, being kind to, sufferers. So that ethos has kind of settled in. Now, on priority to health, I don't know about whether all segments are prioritizing health, but they're not deprioritizing it. They're not being reckless about it. They're very mindful. Yeah.
Mm, mindful.
The mindfulness is now settled in as a sediment, at the bottom of everything. And no longer, at least for a generation, they're no longer going to be, reckless, and they will read labels. It's become a habit. They will read reviews, they'll read labels, they'll figure out harm. Everything they'll figure out the harm quotient, and then they will take a decision.
That's
That's how it is.
that's such a big shift. And
Yeah,
alternate substitutes for recipes, you know, uh,
yeah,
it's like exploded, is really exploded. So mindful of what I'm putting in, and yes, if I'm indulging, how I'm going to make up for it, etc. And how
yeah,
one day of fast and juice fast and this fast, and yeah, that conversation is so loud.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And there are some things that continue. Like, I'd done this paper on the seven deadly sins and how they actually fuel everything. Like, ultimately, your passions are what fuel you. But people put a compensation on that. So if you are very gluttonous, you will find a way to, compensate the gluttony with something that is, less gluttonous. Like if you indulge too much, you will walk two extra rounds in the gym or or, you will do more exercise. So either you are driven by your passions, but you also driven by the angel side, which says that you must compensate for that. Don't go too much into the dark side.
For Indians, we have like a particular attitude towards pap and punya.
Paap and punya. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a constant tussle between paap and punya.
This is very interesting, actually, the seven sins and how people work with it. So
Yeah. In
beautiful.
fact, we created a construct called the passion wheel. The basis for this is that the religions have these seven sins. If you take the Indian concept, your consciousness is in a chariot and you are driven by these horses. So you have to hold on to these horses, otherwise they'll lead you astray. And those horses are your seven sins: your lust, your greed, gluttony and envy and pride and all those things. But they are if you look at any brand, that succeeds, it's actually positioned on these kind of sins, passions. But it is not just positioned on those passions, it's also positioned on the exact opposite. Suppose you take a Nike. Nike is the opposite of sloth. Sloth says, be lazy, just sit in one place, don't do anything. That's a very strong driver. The opposite of that is just do it. Okay, so Kit Kat, for instance, it's the opposite. It's a bit in a break. Take a Kit Kat. That break is sloth. If you take your mosquito repellents, they're all about anger, kill, murder, slay the mosquitoes. So it's built. So if you look at very powerful brands, they're actually built on, either they're built on the seven strong passion drivers, or they're built on the opposite side. So for gluttony, there is abstinence. So, your health foods are all on abstinence. Take less, sugar free, stay slim. Okay. Your Onida, I don't know if you remember, Neighbors Envy, Owner's Pride. It took such a strong stand on envy, and it was a very powerful brand, right? The other end of envy is generosity. So, the passion wheel actually has 14 spaces. So, it has the passions and it has the exact opposite. So, you can position your brand on any of these. And if you position it right, then, your brand actually connects with you much more strongly. So, that's an entire layer to add to, your brand personality and meaning. That's the whole concept in a very short nutshell.
Absolutely. And so you're pushing the buttons in a very archetypal manner, isn't it?
Correct. It's an archetypal manner.
Yeah.
And each one has its codes,
Codes of communication in terms of,
communication codes. Yeah. So, what are the manifestations of that particular passion? Like if it's lust, Then, I mean, Lust has tons of examples. Axe is a perfect example of positioning on Lust. Jughead Jones in Archie is a sloth character.
That's a very, very interesting model, Shobha, because yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it is materialism, isn't it?
We may call ourselves rational creatures, but we are not. We're rationalizing creatures.
Absolutely.
So
The mind is making memory structures only when an emotion is, there's a button on the emotion. So the sins are actually very, very deep emotions.
they're animal drivers.
Yeah, instinct. Yeah, instinctive, very instinctive,
Mm.
and always needing to be satisfied. And on that note, this is rapid fire. We've gone
Oh,
little.
okay. Look very scary. So fine.
Yeah, you're supposed to be scared. I will shoot you if you
Yeah.
elaborate or take time to think. Your mother's best advice.
Be yourself. Don't worry about what people think.
Lovely. Alternate profession could have been.
Advertising possible.
Oh,
Copywriting.
lovely.
Yeah.
As per your partner, your husband, what's your most often used phrase?
I'm not going there, maybe.
What did he say? What did he say?
I'm not going there.
Ah! Okay, one thing no one knows about you.
Maybe that I have a sense of humor.
Everybody knows. Okay.
You
Okay.
know, a lot
Let's
of
go to
people
the
were
cartoon.
very, very shocked and surprised when I started cartooning because I think it came as a surprise that I had a sense of humor. So, okay.
A book you'd like to gift to all your friends.
I'd love to give Gerald Durrell, My Family and Other Animals. That's the book I'd like to give to everyone because it's such pure joy. It just takes you out of your normal life into animals and humor and a sunny island.
What's something new happening in your life right now?
This is new. I mean, I'm coming
Okay,
on your podcast.
sure.
Uh, then I'm playing all my instruments. That's also new. I'm like making an effort to get back in touch. That's new. And I hope
All your instruments. So guitar, flute, what else?
I play the Veena. It was
Oh,
actually the one that I played longest with a
the
good
most
teacher.
difficult, they
And
say.
yeah, that was a starter, my starter instrument. And then I have a harmonica, so I try to play that.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would say there are good things ahead of you. Keep going, believe in yourself. Don't think you're such a loser or anything. Even at 18, you think you're a loser, right?
Uh,
But
hmm.
I think my 18-year-old self would be happy to see me now. So I'm good with that.
Oh, lovely. If you were to devote the rest of your life to philanthropy, what cause would you choose?
I don't know about philanthropy, but I would help kids get over their fear of things like numbers. And they have so many blocks. Maybe I would do that for children without resources.
You'd make learning fun for
Yes,
them.
make
Yeah,
learning fun. Yeah.
lovely. Okay. What is your greatest joy?
My greatest joy actually is my daughter, maybe.
Okay. How would you like strangers to remember you?
Strangers currently encounter me and think I'm a grouchy person. So, my simple requirement is that strangers don't see me as grouchy and, angry or whatever. I'd like them to see me as someone who is,
Requirement. There's no desire, there's like requirement.
well, I'm just being honest.
I love it. Okay, fine. So you're seeing me as grouchy, but I'm not grouchy.
I'm not.
What is one missed opportunity you wish you could have a second chance at?
I had a stint in advertising. I did, got into servicing, which was absolutely the wrong thing for me. At that time, I had the option of getting into another agency in media and planning. And I think if I had taken that fork, I wouldn't be in research. I would probably be in planning. And I think at some level, that would have made me happy as well because I like creative spaces and I like strategy. And
Shobha, it's now
yeah,
a wrap up. I will request you to, say anything else about yourself. Anything that you feel we have not covered, or Drishti.
I have talked about Drishti, but I think what Drishti offers is the ability to think a little out of the box. We're not stuck on any methodologies and so on. So everything is based on the kind of client and the kind of ask that's there. So we are creative and adaptive in the way we approach, every single problem, and we are very committed people. So I think that's important. Everybody whom all our clients would say that about us. So I'm not like fussed about, making that claim. I have a personal cartoon, Insta handle,
And your handle, Instagram handle is
Observatory.
Observatory. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Shobha's Observatory. So that's Observatory.
Observatory. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
I think Jagged with Jasravee is very interesting. I loved your questions, Jasravee, because it made me think, and I found it very on point and very interesting, and, taking the conversation forward. And I like the fact that you covered this topic of AI, because it is going to be one of the things that will drive the next few years. I think I would recommend anybody watch Jagged with Jasravi, because it's great fun, and it's very insightful, and it's a good quality conversation. You'll come away feeling you've learned something and you've discussed something meaningful.
Thank you so much, Shobha. That's for your kind words, and the attempt is to live up to it all the time. It was wonderful to have you as your guest.
I loved talking to you, Jasravi.
Thank you so much.
Great.